in the beginning, there was trouble. And since that beginning, we've had trouble. So it looks like trouble is our middle name.
I love eating, especially cornbread. That's I always loved cornbread.
And of course we live in a really diverse community, and so there's a lot of different types of folks that come by, but it's really funny because everybody's got an opinion about cornbread. All of them.
No, I will never bake for this contest again. Nope.
It was somewhat random.
It's just cornbread. You know, it's just biomass on a plate.
And actually it is the Johnson Avenue International Cornbread Bake Off. It began because my friend and dear associate through business, actually, Deborah Tabart, who is the executive director of the Australian Koala Foundation and comes and stays with us on an annual basis. She is also the founder.
And this is serious, was the suggestion from our leader, Deb Tabart, that we have a competition with cornbread. I'm not sure why cornbread was the one thing that was selected, but she had been regaling us of tales of the Brookfield show, which happens every year in Australia, in her town.
And from what they tell me, the first year it was Susan, Amy, Dab. Maybe that was it, maybe just the three of them. This is my theory, that they were sitting around at dinner one night, you know, having a few, and she told them about this county fair-like thing that they do over in Australia where people bring in their baked goods and they're judged. And so they just decided, okay, well, we can do that too. So they decided to have why cornbread, I still don't know, but a cornbread bake-off.
Francis is experienced. He's been with the judges all along.
I think they did ask me if I wanted to do bake cornbread for it, and I'm not much of a cook or anything, so I declined. And they needed a judge at that point, and so I volunteered for that because I love eating, especially cornbread. That's I always loved cornbread. So it was a natural to me. I didn't have to cook, but I got to eat. And of course there was, you know, wine and beer, so that helped also.
I think he's even-headed, even-keeled is a better way to put it. But also an excellent judge, you know. I wouldn't question Francis's decision.
Like, I hate coconut. If somebody entered a coconut flavored cornbread, I wouldn't say you can't enter it, but I doubt if I'm not sure if I would even try a piece of it.
Hello, sir. Tonight's the night for me. Tonight's the night. It's an investigation.
How would you investigate?
Well, first of all, we talk to the principals. We are the principals.
Right, so what do you remember, Robert? Do you remember?
I don't even remember Ricardo.
Is he the head judge? That's another point of contention.
He's self-appointed, I think, yeah. Partly, yeah, he's more senior, he's assertive, so yeah, he's kind of self-appointed that way.
I don't think there was any vote or any decision other than his own, and we all gracefully accepted it. I mean, he does do a fine job as head judge.
Oh, Al's a good judge. Al's a very good judge. A controversial person, though. He's always trying to raise some kind of point. But he's a good judge.
No, I don't know that you can get paella in San Juan, you know what I'm saying? I mean, well, you would think that one would have to have a particular palate for cornbread. Now, and I grew up in Connecticut, and there really is no cornbread in New England from all that I can tell. But having lived here in the district, below the Mason-Dixon line for the best part of 30 years, you develop a kind you're in a cornbread milieu, whether or not you taste it. And that in turn qualified me to play a critical role here in the judging process.
The Honorable Kelly. He has been a judge also for the long term. I mean, maybe even since year one, I believe, actually. Yeah, and he is, in fact, one of the toughest judges.
Well, I'm not quite happy with Kathy, you know, because she has this Southern mentality, and she got rejected one time and never won a medal. Now, how do you become a judge without winning a medal?
I actually petitioned to be one of the judges. Scott, I was very excited to hear from my sort of new boyfriend that there was a cornbread contest. I was like, I will be so impressive. I make the best cornbread in the world. Well, I did everything right, made my grandmother's cornbread recipe, took it to the cornbread contest, and got no votes. I'm very excited to be a judge and hope to continue with this. And no, I will never bake for this contest again.
I think the judges take their roles very seriously. And I think we go to great pain to avoid a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
I normally only bake cornbread once a year, and that's for this cook-off. So it's not something that I even make on a regular basis.
I don't use my oven a lot, and maybe, you know, there have been years where, in fact, I've had to, you know, dust out the oven before, in fact, putting the cornbread into it so as not to harm the cornbread with the dust.
You know, we all have our special feelings about cornbread, depending on where we come from. Some people say that they, you know the gospel of cornbread and that cornbread should be this or it should be that, but you know, the boundaries of cornbread have been you know, redefined in various parts of the world.
Well, I know I have 3 medals and 1 spatula, so there was 1 or 2 times where I didn't win anything, but I got a new oven.
Well, the first year we were here, which was the second annual, I brought my cornbread souffle, not realizing that it was supposed to be just straight cornbread. And so the judges were up in arms because it wasn't a straight cornbread recipe, and yet I still won 3rd place.
Ah, yes. Oh, my God. You know, I mean, I'm married to him, and I love him dearly, but he is a tough steward. I mean, you are 1 minute late, and...
On competition day, there is a cutoff time, well established ahead of time, of when the entries can be logged in. So the entries come in, and what I have done is set up a set of plates which are identical from one set, each of which have a number taped to the bottom, and I log in the number, I log in the logbook the number of the contestant, match it to the plate. They put out the cornbread on that plate, and then after everybody's logged in, all of the plates get carried over to the actual judging area at the same time. So essentially what you've got is, 10, 12, 13 plates of cornbread of various shapes and sizes and cuts, etc., but all on identical plates, and the numbers are on the bottom.
He documents all this stuff. He keeps the record straight. He's got a book. It's actually like a calendar thing that he uses, where he keeps track of who won, what year, how many beans they got. So when the arguments start, and there's always arguments, Rick can usually, look something up and say, yes, no, that's what happened, that's not what happened, this is what we did, no, we never did that, we did this. So he's sort of, the keel on the sailboat, trying to keep it, pointed in the right direction.
He was in 2006. He was
well, we don't know that. All we know is you see the B. Pullman entries.
He was in. He won fucking second place here. All right. The first couple of years, nobody kept a record, so the first 2 or 3, are sort of steeped in mystery.
The whole judging process really was a kind of an ersatz process at the beginning. So there was a lot, and continues to be a great deal of confusion to this day, as a matter of fact.
For the first few years, we were making up the rules as we were going along. It took us a few years to get the jelly beans down. And
this is how they do the voting. They vote with jelly beans. So there's 2 rounds of judging. First, the judges vote. And there's cups, right? Each plate has a number on it. Each plate holds cornbread. And each plate has a plastic cup next to the plate. So the judges go around the table and they eat, enough to get a taste of every cornbread. And then they vote by dropping jelly beans into a cup. I think it's for the best. They drop 3 jelly beans. Second, what they think is second, 2 jelly beans. Third gets 1 jelly bean. Then I believe it's the steward's job, once again, to tally the votes. And whoever has the most votes gets the first place medal. Second amount of beans, second place medal. Third amount of beans gets the third place medal. And then they open the competition to anybody who happens to be there. The participants get to vote. The judges, I don't think, vote. Random people on the street get to vote. They all get 1 jelly bean. They all sample the cornbreads, and then they drop a jelly bean in. And that's what determines People's Choice Award.
I've won People's Choice twice, which, politically correct, PC, People's Choice. Very proud of, it's not the judges who, feel that they know the boundaries of real cornbread decided that my version of cornbread did not meet that strict definition. So the second category, which is the People's Choice or the creative cornbread category.
Yeah, Don's creative. Boy, did he come, from nowhere. I mean, I was like, Don, bringing cornbread. And boom, yeah, he's got something going on there.
I have never won People's Choice. Don has won People's Choice at least twice, I believe. And he, according to Don, he thinks People's Choice is the highest honor because this takes it out of the realm of the judges and puts it in the hands of the people. It becomes pure democracy. Amy has told me that she aspires to win People's Choice for the same reason.
The judges may disqualify you from their judging, but the People's Choice is for all cornbreads on the table, and that's probably one of the reasons why I think the People's Choice Award is so important.
One of the controversies that has afflicted the judging process is the ingredients. So that there have been an array of international disputes about exactly what ingredients were being used in the making of the cornbread. Accusations of sugar, accusations of marijuana, accusations of other psychotropic substances that I think swayed the judging process in many instances.
Somebody might put like Jack Daniels in it. That's pretty good to me. as long as I suppose if it's legal. If it were illegal, like a marijuana cornbread, that might be, going over the line, especially since we're doing it out on the public street.
There's lots of controversy every year about, what should be allowed in. Fancy cornbread, not fancy cornbread, sweet, not sweet.
I don't like to talk about that, but that's just not something that I want to discuss. But I don't put sugar in my cornbread. I'll just tell you that much. I don't put sugar in my cornbread.
Southern cornbread is not sweet.
No sweetness.
Savory. I like a savory bread.
Oh, well, I know.
So I work from a recipe. Everybody has to work from some kind of a recipe. What's interesting about this particular recipe, and it's from a famous chef that I'm not going to mention, but in the recipe, he actually gives two variations of the recipe. One, if you like cornbread sweet, and the other, if you don't like it sweet. And this is a major bone of contention with the judges and the people who run the contest.
We had a number of emails among the judges and among the competitors this year about that aspect of sugar and sweetness. And I gave generic advice to all those on the email chain, since the email chain looked to be a high number of the competitors. And I just said, what you should be aiming for is something that tastes good.
Yeah.
So this last year, which is the 7th, I think, competition, we decided to just hold it there, go first, second, third place for reasonable, normal cornbread. And then there would be People's Choice, which you can, if you choose to enter in that category, there's only one medal, and you can put anything in it you want.
The first several years of the cornbread, the awards were cardboard. I'm pretty certain that there was a cardboard sort of awards. When Robert Cole, another key contributor to the cornbread competition, made the medal awards, that's when the pressure and the international acclaim of the awards really began to take hold.
They're very small, and I have to put first, second, and third place. In my first ones, I would use my MIG, and I would write with bronze. That worked out pretty good, but I have to make the discs. Now, to make a disc out of metal for me means that I've got to roughly cut a piece of metal out and then grind it down to round, and then polish it off so it's not sharp, because people wear these on their body. And so it takes a little bit of time. And you only get one shot to write a 2 with a MIG, So if you miss it, you gotta grind the whole thing down. You might might as well throw it away because you've ruined the piece.
The first medal was a spatula, and then there were cardboard medals painted with gold paint, and those were a step up from the first time. And then he started making bronze and stainless steel medals.
Certainly having real medallions to take home at the end of the day, I think validated what we were doing. Yeah, I think. And, a renowned sculptor from our city, Robert T. Cole, making them. Who wouldn't want one? They're beautiful. I wear mine all the time.
I mean, now, as you can see, the pressure, the extraordinary sort of attempting to produce cornbread in the glare of the spotlight really was, its genesis of that atmosphere was the metal awards, from all that I can tell.
The disqualifications have definitely raised some issues throughout the years, and I leave that to the hands of the judges. I mean, they know what's best.
There was an entry several years ago where it was really a layer cake. So it did not resemble cornbread in any way, shape, or form.
Gigi actually had one cornbread that was really fancy. In fact, she was disqualified because they thought it contained cake mix. It was extraordinary.
It was cake, basically. It was a fucking cake. And the judges said, no, we've gone too far. There was the limit, and we disqualified her. And she was all upset. And the next year, she won People's Choice.
Well, there was a timing question when he arrived. Then there was a question about the ingredients.
He may have gotten in late. I mean,
He recalls that his human rights were violated. I mean, that was my understanding.
I'm late. Sorry. But it's good anyway. Here it is.
Well, it turns out that I'm not the only person that's been disqualified. A lot of people have been disqualified. And you can get disqualified for a variety of things. I was disqualified because I did not make the registration deadline set up by Rick, the steward.
There's a lot of pressure the day of, and I found that, in fact, that many years I've made 2 cornbreads. People don't know this. It's one of the things that I probably shouldn't be saying on tape, but
Standing around the table, and I sort of stepped outside of myself for a second, and I thought, I'm really fucking nervous about this because I really want to win. You know, I really want to win.
You'd think that it would be a lighthearted lark for most people. And, you know, it is at some level, and it's certainly started out that way. But, you know, come Bake Off Day, people are anything but lighthearted. It's anything but a lark. They take this very seriously.
Every time I've been in this cornbread contest, something always gets really tense right while you're baking, and it's very, very, very hard. It's not an easy thing.
But I have to say, this year, having won the People's Choice Award now twice, I'm intending this year to develop a new strategy, which is to be just inside the boundaries of what those who can define the boundaries have set as the limits. I'm going to push it as far as I can, right to the edge.
My struggle as one of the original judges has been to maintain the integrity of the cornbread judging process, which is constantly being threatened by outside pressure, again connected to the glare of the spotlight when you've got to put your cornbread out here on Johnson Avenue. Why, that's sort of when you're making cornbread. That's pretty much the height. It is the Super Bowl, really, of cornbread judging right here in Johnson Avenue on our nation's capital.
Hello, this is founder of the International Cornbread Competition.
well, that's just fabulous.
The calls are coming in thick and fast because I understand that there's going to be a competition again on this weekend. It is thrilling that these events go on without me, a bit like a Julia Child's, meal. Long after I'm dead, it'll continue.
These are the medals. I'm the head judge. These are the medals that we're giving out this year.
How are you? I'm dropping off a cornbread.
I turn over all responsibility now to the head judge and the judging panel. I'm done. Well received. I like that.
What in your hand?
My water.
Three. One, 16. 3 for first place, 2 for second, and 1 for third.
For a casual.
3, 2, and 1.
Beans here.
3 for first place, 2 for second, and 1 for third.
Okay.
1 for third.
All right, review those rules again now.
3 for first place, 2 for second, and 1 for third.
All right.
Yeah, no, I already.
Cool. Thank you. These are like live weapons. They're like live bullets.
It's going. Once it gets to the actual judging, my job is done. Now it's up to them. So and that's where the controversy often begins.
These are fucking muffins right here. This is not cornbread.
All right.
On the other side.
Nervous, actually. Nervous.
It's tough this year.
Mount it. Mount it.
I have a sworn deposition.
Yeah. And they don't put any of the.
Right,
First
announcement!
place is number 11.
This one right here.
Right here.
Number 11.
Who's the author here?
Who's the author?
Who's number 11?
Number 11 would be Anne Marie.
Anne
Marie, and she's not even here.
Oh, just call us
Winner must be.
I knew this was rigged.
All right.
Number 10.
Number 10 is Don.
Don.
All right, John. All right, number 2. I think you should be number 1. Anne Marie's on here.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Pat.
Yes.
I am all about number 3.
Oh, wonderful. Look at that.
Just these two. Right for people's choice. Everybody get a bean again, and you're only voting for 2. For these 2.
Oh, that was cheating because that one was.
I thought they both. Number 13 and number 14. 13 and 14. Take one bean. That would be Eileen.
What a medal. What a great medal.
You get a medal, honey?
Eileen, people's choice. All right. Go.
Anna Marie, I have to ask you a question though. Do you have cheese in you?
Give me a piece.
Don't answer.
No, you have to answer. This is otherwise it has to be a big investigation. Oh no, because we have. She's not a judge. You see this medal here? Yes. This is authority. Now this is an imposition, or we're going to have a big blow.
Show me the rules of the.
I am the rules. And,
She won square and fair and square.
All right. All right. If you refuse to answer.
I refuse to answer.
All right.
I refuse to answer anything. It's a secret recipe with a secret process.
All right.
Very, very secret.
First place. First place. Goes Donna Marie.
Yeah, Donna Marie. Cool.
Way to go. Muffins, jalapenos, pieces of actual corn in the cornbread. It was outrageous that nobody was disqualified. It was very calm. There was no arguing. There was I'm stunned.
I feel a little of the agony of defeat. Feel it's over, for another year. Sorry that I didn't place even. Obviously the competition's getting tougher and I'm gonna have to lift my game.
Most of the positive things in my life have occurred because I backed into them, and the cornbread competition is one of those circumstances where I just sort of backed into it at the earliest possible stage, and since then it's been a key part of my life and has contributed a great deal to my personal development.
I continue to be surprised about how seriously people take it. Because like I said, the first couple of years, I thought it was just an excuse to start drinking early.
It's great tasting, and it's always good drinking, and
of course, it's in honor of Deborah. I mean, she's,
I can honestly say that it is one of the most joyous things in my life, and I do believe that everyone who attends the cornbread competition can, in moments of gloom, think back or forward to a cornbread competition and find mirth and laughter.
It's a good-natured, joyous event, and that's one of my favorite things about it. It's a good opportunity to, get together and drink a lot.
The Johnson Avenue International Cornbread Competition. I think the best thing about it is that it generates great amounts of laughter. It's just so silly. And in this very serious world, it's nice to have a little silliness.